Hey, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Creator Toolbox. This is the show all about the nuts and bolts behind your creator business. I'm Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com and joined this week by Justin Moore. How are you, Justin?
What's going on, Colin? Glad to be here.
So, Justin, let's give a wee intro. You are the creator wizard, aren't you? What do you tell people you do when they ask you?
I help people find and negotiate their dream sponsorships. That's my
Oh,
pitch.
nice. Good stuff. So you are primarily concentrating on monetization, monetizing
Mm,
content. Is that right?
Not just monetization, sponsorships. That's it. That's all I talk
Ah,
about.
even more
So,
niche.
yeah, even more niche. So I call myself a sponsorship coach. Funny backstory though, because when I started, it was much more broad than that. It was like, oh, like email lists and digital products and affiliate marketing and all this stuff. But sponsorships has really been my forte. My wife and I have done over 550 sponsorships over the last decade. Made $4.5 million. I've talked pretty openly about it. It's been one of our primary revenue streams as creators over the last 15 years or so. But I also ran an influencer marketing agency for about 7 years, and so I saw kind of the other side of it, being in the room with these big brands and these big agencies and seeing how they're deciding how to now spend. Oh, we want to spend $1 million on an influencer marketing campaign or something. So these are the two kind of perspectives that I've brought to education. And so what happened was when I started creating content to educate people, like about maybe a year into my journey, one of my followers DM'd me and was like, "Hey, you seem much more knowledgeable about sponsorships than anything else. You should just talk about that." And I was like, "That's a good idea." And so I made a hard pivot, and ever since I kind of really narrowed down on this niche around sponsorships, things really took off.
That's amazing. It's the thing that you always hear, isn't it? It's the thing we often tell people we work with, we tell ourselves, but it's often really hard to do. And
Right.
especially that specifically niched. But it's worked out for you, presumably.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I loved, and it's the thing I love talking about the most. So it worked out. It worked out perfectly.
Even better, even better. Cool. Right. Do you know what? I'm going to come back to tons of questions around that once we get to our creators. So I'll come back to this. I want to talk to that a lot more, especially the influencer agency side of things, actually, because that's something I don't really have any experience with whatsoever,
Okay.
and I think it'll be really interesting to our audience too. But Creator Toolbox. Let's get into a few tools first. So, what have you got for us this week, Justin? What's something you want to talk about? What are you enjoying using in recent
All right.
days?
Yeah. So, in fact, actually, can I share my screen? Is this like
You
totally
can
crazy to
indeed.
do?
No, no,
Let me
no, no.
just
It's a great idea. Okay,
I
go
think
for
it's a
it.
really cool idea because
Yeah.
I want to show you a tool that I've been using that I think
Yes.
people will get stoked about. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen here. Are we
Go for
ready
it.
for this, Colin?
Yeah, yeah. Got it. Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to add that to the stage. There you go.
Okay, so this is a tool called Help This Book. So I am writing a book right now. It's called Sponsor Magnet. And one of the scariest parts of writing a book is opening it up to early beta readers, to give you feedback on how it's going so far. Essentially, the typical path that most prospective authors take or aspiring authors take is they go into a cabin by the lake and they go in there for 6 months in a writing retreat and they don't talk to anyone. And then they emerge with what they think is their masterpiece. And then they release it to crickets, right? They publish it, maybe self-publish on Amazon or whatever. And they feel very demoralized and crushed. And so from the beginning, I've sought very much to involve my audience as early as possible in the process, to the point, Colin, where I wrote the first 4 chapters and then I sent it out to people. I didn't even finish the book. And so this tool is called Help This Book. And what it allows you to do is let me actually show you what the user facing version looks like. And so basically you send this, you upload your manuscript via Google Docs,
Mhm.
and people can just highlight areas, sentences, and put a reaction in. So let's say I'm a reader. They have
Oh,
4 different options. They have useful, love this, thought, feels slow or confusing, and then they can add an additional note to that, right? So it's like this part especially resonated, right? And then they can upload that. And so at what you can see is like, you can see there's just like a massive amount of feedback that people, gave me. Oh, sorry, I wasn't sharing. You couldn't see that part. Hold on, let me share this screen because I realized it only showed my browser window, not the actual thing. Because this part's interesting. Share screen.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me.
No, I
Oh,
saw
here we go.
lots of comments there. There were
I need.
lots of
Yeah, I need to share entire screen. That's what I need to do. This
right.
one. Here we go. Not just the window. Can you pull that one up?
Oh yeah, got it now. Right, here we go. There you go.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Sorry. So what I was saying is that you can highlight any area of the text and then click love this, and people say,
Mhm.
"Oh, this really resonated," right? And then you just upload this, and so what you see is like you've got this beautiful tapestry of feedback that people have left. And so in my author view, it's really useful because you can see, okay, which chapters are people getting hung up the most. You can weight it by word
Mhm.
count, for example. So like, for example, chapter 1 was the shortest and it had the most comments. It's like people are really, it's so you can even visually see like people are really falling off, because
Mhm.
they really found a hard time getting through chapter 1. And so and if you want to go through like the detailed feedback, you can click through and disposition it. And man, it's been such a beautiful process to get an understanding of like where people are getting stuck. And really at the end of the day, the goal is to write a book that is useful, right?
Yeah.
This is the book that I want people to not only get value out of, but also recommend to other people. There's
Mm.
a course that I went through called the Modern Author Academy by Rob Fitzpatrick, and this is his software that he's created with some partners. And it's just been such a transformative tool for me because the goal at the end of the day is like his whole thesis is that you can actually engineer your book to be recommendable by writing it in a very specific way. And so this tool has played a big role in that, and so I've been really loving it.
This is really interesting. You've got so much feedback here as well. I mean, I'm sure you've got so much useful info, so much useful feedback from just the comments themselves, but even
Hmm.
just seeing the volume of feedback must be really heartening. Like, you've only written 4 chapters. What I hear from book writers is that often the last 20% is 80% of the work. Classic 80/20
Hmm.
rule. So
Hmm.
seeing this feedback, seeing this reaction to it must be actually a really good tool to just keep moving and be motivated to
Yeah.
finish the thing too.
Dude, but it was terrifying. I gotta be honest, like opening up myself to this feedback because it's like
Yeah,
you
I
put
know.
something out in the universe and then people be like, that sucks. No one really said like that sucks, but people were like, this doesn't make
You're
sense. This
yeah.
isn't good. Yeah. And so it's having the humility, I think, kind of having your ego in check a little bit. And to be honest, I completely rewrote the first section of the book after receiving the feedback on my first version of the book. And it's
Really.
way better now. I put out the first one and I was like, this is awesome. And then I got all this feedback and I was like, that's a good point. Just a quick anecdote of something
Mhm.
that I changed was that I spent a lot of time thinking about the reader persona or the profile, like who is the best type of creator to read this book. And initially I was thinking, this is the creator who already knows that sponsorships are awesome. I don't want to start the first section where like, here's 10 reasons why sponsorships are awesome. That wasn't the person I wanted to write the book for. I wanted to be like, hey, I'm not going to put my kid gloves on here. They're awesome. Let's just dive right into it, right? But even people who were really experienced in sponsorships was like, hold on, take me out to dinner first. You're being a little too abrasive here and
Yeah.
like curt, and there's too much brevity. You've over-indexed on brevity, right? And so it really, I started, telling more stories and kind of just easing people into the process. I think was one big outcome. So yeah, it's been super super useful.
That's really cool. I love that. It's a great tool. Yeah. How did you get over that fear then? Because I mean, that is huge. That is massive. Like loads of people, everyone knows they need to ask for feedback. Everyone feels terrified by it, like you've just suggested. But how did you do it anyway?
I think from the beginning, when I started educating creators around this process around sponsorships, I've been very open about everything. I've talked about when I started first coaching. I started when I shared screenshots of all the ups and the downs when I launched my first course. I've shared everything very publicly, especially on Twitter/X, and so it just felt pretty natural to do the same thing on these new projects that I'm doing. And the way that I've always looked at it is that um, the people that I aspire, and I'm sure we'll talk about this when we get into the creator section, is like the people that I aspire to are sharing both the ups and the downs. Like when they share a big blog post recap of like their year and they share all the awful things that happened to them
Yeah.
alongside all the awesome things, I'm always like, I relate to that way more. The people who are like constantly flexing, oh, I made this $10,000, $50,000 on my launch or whatever. I identify way more with the person who was like, I just lost like $30,000 like on ads or something. I was trying
Yeah.
like cold ads or something. I was like, yeah, I've been there. I've done that. Right. And so I guess that's where it comes from, is like, I want to be that person to just like relate to, because I feel like that's way more common than the wins.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's reminding yourself that the content you consume, that's the parts that you love, that's the parts you engage with. Yeah, that's really
Mhm.
interesting. Because it's easy to forget that part, isn't it? The fact that you spot more of the positives, you always hook onto the positives, but they're not the bit that really engages, not the bit that really
Mhm.
interests us. Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
Mhm.
Excellent. Anything else on this tool then you want to share, or that'll do it for now?
No, I mean, I think the final comment you mentioned about the
Yeah.
volume of the feedback that I received, this
Yeah.
was from only 21 readers.
What? Okay.
So you don't need. So I guess if anyone's watching or listening and is
Yeah.
thinking this feels like a very overwhelming thing, what I was shooting for is getting 50% of the people I invited to provide feedback, and that's what happened. I almost to the number. Like I invited 40 people, and 20 people actually did it. And so it really doesn't have to be an overwhelming process.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. That's great. I love that. Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to share one with you. So I
Yeah,
am
please.
almost certain you will know this then, given your area of expertise here. But have you come across passion fruit so
I
far?
have.
You
Yes.
have.
Yes.
Have you used it or just?
Yeah, they've been a sponsor of mine in the past, actually.
Oh, perfect. So you
Yeah,
know this well then. So I'm
yeah.
interested in your take on this then, because I've only really just came across it and I've just started playing around with it. And
Mhm,
I love the stuff they're doing, really. I know it's quite early stage. That's right, isn't it? They've been around a wee while, but I think they're still
mhm.
early-ish. Is that right?
Yeah, they're still pretty early. I think they've been around for
Yeah.
for a couple of years. I worked with them a couple of years ago, and they're great product builders. I think they're very
Yeah.
thoughtful about how to craft an experience for creators that are streamlined. And so yeah, big fans of them over there.
Well, that's interesting then, because I didn't think they'd been around that long. I had no
Mm,
idea.
yeah.
I can't remember how I came across it now, but anyway, the principle is so for you listening out there, Passion Fruit aims to help make sponsorship brand deals much easier. They help you manage the whole process around actually running sponsorships, delivering sponsorships, and selling them. So you can create a storefront. You have your own little storefront in here. Uh, and you can sort of offer all your different products. So right now I've just got, for example, a tester setup where I've got our newsletter. So the podcast pointers, one of our main newsletters, I've got set up in here, really nicely presented here with all the data any potential sponsor might need, like subscribers, like open rate, click through rate, all that kind of stuff. And then you can set up your packages as well. So, you can sell 4 issues at once or one weekly with for a bit more, something like that. But you can put all of your products in here as well. And it's really set up for such a big range of creators because it can include newsletters, podcasts, YouTube channels, social media, all that kind of stuff, and even tie them together as well. I love that idea that you can offer the package of podcast plus social media or video plus podcast, that kind of thing. And it just seems to make it really simple. And I love the fact that it can manage all the payments, all that kind of stuff. So you can send out invoices, you can send out proposals, all the details people might need, payment details right in there so that it's really easy to get paid as well, really easy to follow up on invoices. And it seems to be really easily set up just to manage this whole sort of brand management side of things. And one part which I haven't played with yet, I think actually I had a look in the Discover section the other day. There weren't too many that suited me at the time, but actually, I think this is such a nice idea, the fact that they've got a little catalog of potential sponsors too. So if you're early stage in this, you don't have any prospects, you can actually go in here and see who is already offering, uh, you know, sponsorship campaigns. You can reach out to them and see if they want to work with you. And from a publisher point of view, this is something that I think I'm going to use in the near future as well, in terms of us offering a campaign in Passion Fruit to hopefully
Mhm.
help sponsor other creators, to give them some monetization, hopefully get our brand in front of their audiences as well. So really enjoying it. Tell me then, Justin, how have you used it as a creator or a sponsor so far? Are you any experience with that?
Yeah, so, again, big fan of what they're doing over there. I have
Yeah.
not personally used it much in my own business, primarily because pretty much every deal that I do is somewhat bespoke. I think this is a really good solution for creators at the beginning of their journey where
Okay.
they don't really have a lot of familiarity around what they should be offering or how to really do the process. I think it's super useful for that. I found that I think when you start working with brands and companies on a little bit more of an advanced scale, it becomes a little bit more challenging to just offer a menu of items to a brand, given that they may have quite different objectives than
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
other companies. And
Mhm.
so again, I think it's super useful at very kind of maybe at an earlier stage of your journey.
Mhm.
But yeah, super big fans of what they're doing over there.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Here's something I want to try out in the near future with it as well is the calendar. This is something that when we are managing sponsorships, we're trying to do this manually. You're trying to jump into Google Calendar or you're logging it in Notion or something somewhere where like, oh, so they paid for 4 weeks and that goes from then to then. So we're trying to sell another one and that goes from then to then. So I like the fact that they've got the calendar built in
Hmm.
and people can actually choose from that menu too. But
Totally.
yeah,
I mean, that could
yeah.
be a really overwhelming thing for a lot of creators who are doing partnerships is keeping track, especially if you have a lot of different platforms, podcast,
Mhm.
newsletter, social media, and things like that. So absolutely, any way that you can use to like make sure that you're staying on top of this stuff. Because honestly, at the end of the day, could be like dropping the ball on one particular date could be a reason that a sponsor might not want to renew with you. And so,
Mhm.
it's this is one of the things I talk about a lot is like the
Mhm.
actual experience working with you as a creator during the partnership itself. If you're communicative, if you're professional, if you hit every deadline, though, that can be the reason sometimes that a brand actually
Yeah.
renews with you, regardless
Yeah.
of how many clicks you got on the link or anything like that.
How I how reliable so you've worked with a lot of creators, a lot of sponsors, that kind of stuff. How reliable do you feel the average creator is on this? I'll
Very
I'll
unreliable, extremely unreliable.
that
I
was my fear.
honestly
That was my fear,
yeah, I mean
yeah.
I mean, I've literally done over 1,000 campaigns when I ran the agency, and the default assumption was that they were not going to deliver stuff on time. They were not going to post stuff on time. And so we built into our process, just we had to remind people all the time,
Right.
send them
Mhm.
emails, reminder, you're going live tomorrow, you're doing this. And to some degree, I have a lot of empathy because my wife and I, we've been creators for so long, and I know the unique challenges of like
Yeah.
being on the content hamster wheel. Maybe you have a full-time job and you're side hustling as a creator. It's not your full-time thing. You have a family, right? So it's like, I get it. But at the same time, I think a lot of creators forget that this is a business transaction. You have committed to do things at a certain time. And if you may not think that missing a deadline is a big deal, but the brand, remember, is probably working with 15 other creators. And so you missing a deadline, and maybe it's an agency, right? They're working with 15 other creators. And so you missing a deadline means that they have to go back to their client and be like, I know we said Justin was going to go live on this date, but he actually didn't. And so they look like idiots. And so one of the things I teach is like your entire goal is to make your brand contact look like a hero. Don't make them look like an idiot.
Absolutely. I suppose there's good news in there, isn't there? Because it means that it's not too hard to stand out. It's not too hard
No,
to look great.
exactly, Colin. Exactly. It's not hard to stand out, man. It really, the bar is so low. It's in the basement.
Just turn up and
Yeah.
actually
Just
do what you
show
said
up.
you were going to do. It's funny how much that plays out in just general life, to be honest. Just do the thing you said you were going to do and you look like a hero because so
Yeah.
many people don't do it. Yeah. All right. Right. So what's your tool number two, Justin?
All right. My second tool is something called Senja, which is a testimonial tool.
Oh,
And let me show you how I use it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again because we're having fun doing that.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an example. of one of my walls of love that I have for I have something called the 7-day pitch challenge, and it's a live accountability challenge that I do a couple times a year. So I'm actually just in the middle of the second one.
Oh,
It started on Friday, and so this is testimonials that creators left me for the first one, and so there's all sorts of different widgets that you can create. In fact, let me show the behind the scenes of it, like what the actual dashboard
oh
looks
yeah.
like, because I think that'll be actually interesting. So I basically, you have a list of all of your testimonials in here. You can tag them based on the various, what the testimonial was for. Was it, my brand deal wizard program, for my pitch challenge? Maybe it's just social proof. Someone like said something on social media. I'm very diligent about screenshotting or copying links whenever someone like, oh, thank you so much, Justin, you helped me get a brand deal or something.
Yeah.
And so you have this giant list. And so once you use this as your repository, then you have this thing called the studio, where you can just create really easy things, whether it's pop-ups or you can create widgets like this. You can create, video embeds, images. Like they have all these kind of templates that you basically just like, let's just like assume we click on this one. And so, okay, this is the one we want to use. So we can select the testimonial that we want to do. So let's just say it's whatever, this one. We save that selection and there we go. Boom. It's there, and you could just download
Amazing.
this image,
Yeah.
share it directly on social media. So I think there's two like really useful purposes for something like Senja. Number one is if you sell things directly and you're collecting, to your audience, you have customers. This tool can be very useful for showing social proof, putting it on sales pages, things like that. But then one of the things that I talk about is that getting testimonials from your sponsors is hugely powerful. So if you can have, if you're collecting, and in fact, let me show you, because you can have, let me go to the forms. So I have, for example, my brand deal wizard, form that I can easily share with people. So let's just say I want to share the link with someone. Boom. I just open this up and I send this. I say, hey, will you share a testimonial? And so this is the landing page that I could send to people. They can do a video, they can write a
That's
testimonial.
amazing.
And so you can throw a form up like this for your sponsors. So you could say, hey, it was such an awesome experience working with you. Would you be willing to share 1 to 2, sentences or even a video of like your experience working with me? And you send this to them, and then create a landing page on your website with these testimonials from these sponsors, so that when you're negotiating with other brands, you can, share a link to that wall of love, essentially, for you as a creator, and what other brands and companies' experiences have been like working with you. And so, big fan of Ollie and the team over there for what they're building. I think I've been a big fan of Senja so far.
That's so good. Yeah. I love how you're making it quite specific as well. So you've got, you're getting testimonials for one particular use case for sponsors as well as for
Hmm.
services, products, all that kind of stuff. You're thinking about it that way. That's really nice.
Yeah,
Is
the
there,
other, just as a quick
yeah.
anecdote, the reason that I got down this rabbit hole was that I realized that creators were Googling me. I didn't realize this,
Yeah.
where it was like if people wanted to learn more about me or join my programs or something, and I was like, wow, there's like search traffic for Creator Wizard. Like people are looking up this. And so one of the first things I did is I went Justin Moore Creator Wizard. I was like Googling it, right? And when you do that, I don't know why it's not showing up now. Let me do this like in an incognito browser so I can show you. Justin Moore Creator Wizard. I don't know what this is not showing up, but usually there's like a search widget that shows up here. Um,
Oh,
and let me
the
just
person-based one.
try
I think
this.
we've seen
Oh,
that
there we go.
before.
There we go. So I
Yeah,
just
there
did
you
Creator
go.
Wizard. So, like I had 0 reviews before,
Yeah,
and I didn't really have any sort of like business presence here.
yeah.
And so another creator actually recommended, he was like, hey, you should actually solicit Google reviews for like if you do a coaching session or people join your course. And so over the last year or so, I've gotten these amazing reviews. And so I got down this rabbit hole of like asking people every time they worked with me, like, hey, would you be willing to do a review? And so I just started seeing the power of the social proof, going down this rabbit hole.
It's something that is so easy to do, really, but actually so few people do it. You're absolutely right.
Hmm.
Like it's just do you have any tips around how you've encouraged people to actually go ahead and do it? That's the one thing. Like it's easy to ask, but helping people to or encouraging people to follow through can be the trickier part. Do you have anything that's worked for you?
I'm relentless.
Just keep
So
asking.
I just keep asking. I make a note. I said, if someone, so what the way I always do it is I ask right at peak excitement, right when someone has either just done a coaching session and they're feeling really inspired, or they just have gotten a brand deal and they're feeling super stoked. And I say, hey, so stoked for you. Would you be willing to share a quick testimonial? And people like, and so choosing when you ask people, I think also matters. And just being relentless about it. I have a text snippet in my phone and on my computer. So it's just like, I know it's like a short code. It's like a testimonial, whatever it is. And like, I just insert it in. Hey, and then I make a note. If someone says, yes, I'll get around to it, and they don't do it immediately, I just
Yeah.
follow up. I make a reminder to do it, because these things are gold.
Yeah.
Testimonials are gold. I mean, we could go down a huge conversation about how I use testimonials in my email marketing as well. But yeah, I mean, testimonials are absolute gold if you're doing anything like this as a creator.
Yeah. Excellent. Great. Okay. Thank you. That's another great
Yeah,
tool.
you
Do you
got it.
know, let's dig in on that a little bit, because I want to dig into move on to creator of the week.
Okay,
Do you mind if I dig into a few questions around
please.
your background, and then we can nip on and we'll finish up with your creator of the week?
100%.
I mean, that's a great place to start. I'm curious. How do you use testimonials in your email marketing? Because we use testimonials quite a bit, but we've never used them in email at all. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I always try to put the hat on of my audience slash customer, right? That's someone on the receiving end of this email. Um, and think about what the absolute best case scenario would be. Imagine that we were on a one-on-one phone call, Colin, and you said, hey, Justin, like, what are your challenges with like podcasting? Like, tell me like what's going on in your, like, what do you find the most challenging? And then I pour my heart and soul out to you. I say, oh, I just am worried that, no one's going to listen. I'm not going to get many downloads, or I don't have the right equipment, or I don't have what I'm going to say something to you, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
pour my heart out to you. And you're going to say, okay, that's great. Here's my specific recommendation for you. That's what you would probably say to me on a one-on-one coaching call, right? And you can do a version of that with your testimonials if you have personalized information about your subscribers at scale. And so the very first thing that I do when someone joins my newsletter is I send them to a segmentation survey, and I ask them about 7 questions, and I say, like, the first question is like, what is your number one goal as a creator this year? And they answer one of like 5 things. And also ask other questions about their various challenges and learning styles and stuff like that. And so immediately when they join the list, I send them down different tracks.
Mm-hmm.
They're receiving different emails based on what they identified. So if you told me that your biggest challenge is you're getting a bunch of free product offers from brands and you're struggling to get paid, I'm going to send you different things. I'm going to send you different videos, different podcast episodes, different interviews, versus the person who's saying, I'm getting a bunch of deals, but I want to negotiate more money. I'm going to send you more advanced stuff. I'm going to send you over here. And so that's like the lowest hanging fruit. It was just like, make nurture sequences for different people where they're at, meet them where they're at, right? I told you this, great. Here's videos that are tailored to you. And then the most powerful thing is that when you do email your audience with some sort of offer, coaching or courses or whatever, you send them different testimonials based on what they said. So I have categorized all the testimonials based on where that creator was at, the niche that they're in, the type of outcome that they had. And so if someone said, I was able to quit my full-time job because of Justin's help through his program, anyone who said that when they join the list is going to get that testimonial.
Yeah.
You want to meet them where they're at. And so it sounds complicated, but it's not really that difficult to do with some pretty simple email. It's called liquid code. And it's been transformative for my business, because that's what I want. Like if someone is like emailing me and being like, and I'm thinking like, is this, here's a good example, Colin. I get 50 DMs a day, like, okay, not 50, maybe like 20 a day, a lot. I get a lot of DMs of like, hey, you're a coach, you want to get like 20 more leads a day or whatever, right? It's like, these like lead gen, agencies trying to solicit work. And I delete basically every single one of them. And the other day I got a DM from someone who says, hey, I do lead generation specifically for coaches who have courses.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, let me actually read this. This is interesting.
Mm.
Right. And so that person this was actually their niche, and they hyper like personalized their pitch because they knew that that's what I do. And
Yeah.
so just extrapolate that for your own business is like, how can you just like aim your goal is like, have this be audience first? How can I directly speak to them?
Yeah, it's like your testimonials, isn't it? I mean, a testimonial that actually is obviously from someone who sponsored one of your shows is going to speak directly to a sponsor, as opposed
Right.
to one of your coaching clients who says you're a good coach. Doesn't necessarily mean you're great to sponsor. So it's like total targeting, isn't it?
Well, it actually goes even further than this. We were talking earlier around these testimonials you can get from sponsors, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I teach is that if you have a media kit or you have an area on your website, let's say with all these testimonials,
Mhm.
the ideal scenario is actually you have different versions of that page where the case studies are. They are specific around what the campaign objectives were. So, for
Mhm.
example, one of the things I teach is that there's 3 campaign objectives that a brand will have when they want to work with you. It's either awareness, repurposing, or conversion, the ARC framework, ARC. And so pretty much every campaign will be one of those 3 things. And when you're communicating with a new sponsor, you better only be sending them case studies based on the objective that they identified. So if they said that sales is their goal, you better not be sending them an awareness case study where it's like, look how many views or downloads I got on this podcast. They don't care. They just told you sales. That's their goal. And so the case studies that you send them and the testimonials from other partners that you work with, that better be only conversion focused goals.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes absolute sense. What size of clients do you work with? Do you have people all range of audiences?
All range, man. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I have this. I'm a framework guy, if it's not obvious already.
Yeah.
But I have this another framework called the sponsorship continuum.
Yep.
And should I just pull it up? Should we just do
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
thing?
Fire away.
Because it's fun, right? Um,
Absolutely.
okay, it's easier if I show the visual anyway.
Go for it.
All right, here we go. Let me
And
share
for
my
anyone
screen.
just listening, we can pop this, we'll pop a link into the show notes for a screenshot of this
Perfect.
as well. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Share screen. Boom. Okay, so the best way that I can describe this is
Mhm.
that um, when you're in the beginning of your journey, what you pitch has to change. Okay, because if you, let's say, are getting 50 or 100 downloads per podcast episode, and your pitch to the brand is, hey, let me talk about you on my podcast, it's likely not going to move the needle for them. Let's just be real here, right? And so instead, the thrust of your pitch should probably be, hey, I just did an audit of your social presence brand. And I see that you're not posting on social media very regularly, or I see that you don't have a podcast as a brand, or I see that you don't have a YouTube channel. I actually have a specialty in that, and I can create some content for you to utilize on your platforms or utilize on your social media or utilize on your I can be your podcast host to stand up a podcast for your I think you can be telling your brand story in a more compelling way. And so the thrust of your pitch is, hey, I'm going to create some content for you. It's going to be kind of like consulting. And so your platform, you basically say, hey, go look at my podcast because that's my portfolio. That is my credibility. And a lot of people don't think that this is a sponsorship, but it is. You are helping a brand accomplish something. And so if you're feeling as though you don't have a lot of experience or you don't have a very large audience or you don't have a ton of influence, starting at this beginning of the continuum and serving brands in this way can be really powerful. And then let's say we grow a little bit, right? Now we're getting hundreds or thousands of downloads on the podcast. Yeah, maybe it's a combination what you pitch now, consulting, content for the brand to use. And yeah, maybe posting natively on your podcast or doing an ad read starts becoming meaningful. Now we achieve some serious skill. We're moving to the very far end of the continuum, and you're getting tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of views on your, you have a much broader reach now. Yeah. Creating and posting natively on your platforms is super meaningful to the brand now, right? And this is where the big podcast sponsors is going to come and pay you a bunch of money. And so I like talking through this continuum because
Yeah.
people think, okay, wow, I thought that there was like this threshold that I need to reach before I could start working with sponsors. And I think this kind of liberates people to realize, no, it just what you pitch has to change.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's so good. Yeah, my question was going to be, what's the content that you can most easily leverage as a smaller creator? But that makes so much sense in terms of you use your creating skills almost. You're monetizing the skills you have as a content creator as opposed to your audience at that stage.
Mhm.
because
Mm-hmm.
that's the one you're developing first, and then the audience comes next. So I love that. One thing we get asked a lot, I'd be really interested to hear your perspective on, is as a creator develops, they go through that continuum from the
Mm-hmm.
start. They're moving towards the end of your continuum. They start to develop their own products and services too. Do you see people mixing sponsorship externally with selling their own products and services over time? Like, can they work together?
Can I show you another graphic?
Yeah.
Dude, I
Got them
so
all.
you
I
know,
love
you
it.
know, you know the funny thing, dude, is
Yeah.
that one of the virtues of talking about one thing over and over and over is that you get to attack it from every single angle. I've literally thought about this every single day for like 4 years. And so because of that, I've gone down so many different rabbit holes of all these different
Yeah.
questions. And I'm thinking like there's a framework here. And so let me show you. I'm actually giving a keynote about this topic,
Nice.
about mixing sponsors and brands and things like that in a few weeks here at the CEX conference. And so let me show you this graphic here. So the framework that I have is called audience first offers. And so the way I like to describe this is that what a lot of creators fear is that they say, okay, if I talk about another brand's stuff or I talk about someone else's stuff, like an affiliate stuff, they'll have less money to buy my stuff. That's what a lot of people, it's a scarcity mindset approach, right? But the exercise that I encourage people to go through is, hey, let's actually ask our audience what is going on in their life. And in fact, let me scroll back to another section here real quickly so I can show you the email that you can hear. If you could send a survey like this to your audience to say, hey, I want to learn more about you. I'm planning out my next series of content. Can you answer a few questions here? What type of job do you have? Do you have a partner? Do you have kids? How and when do you typically consume my content? Is it in line at a coffee shop for 2 minutes, or do you sit down every weekend and catch up on my most recent, content? What problems do you have and what keeps you up at night? Is there any type of product that you wish that I offered that I don't, and why? What types of brands and products and services are you using or interested in right now? And also, are there any other people that you'd like me to collaborate with, and why? And so once you have that data, and we're back here of like asking these questions, all of a sudden you realize, wow, I have 3 different buckets of ways in which I could serve people. I have my own products, courses, digital products, books, coaching, events. I have my sponsors stuff, which could help someone accomplish this transformation, their SaaS, their products, their services, their events, and then other people's stuff, right? Their products, their services, their coaching. And so when you think about it from an audience first perspective, how can I help my audience accomplish a transformation? You realize that your job, it doesn't matter which of these buckets you put in front of your audience, because at the end of the day, it's about how can you be the best facilitator of that transformation for your audience. And so it's a transformative moment, because it's like, wow, selling stuff is like not scary anymore. It's not about me lining my pockets. It's about serving them. And so it's this PSA that I talk about: your products, your sponsors, and your alliances. It's just transformative.
And the more value you give them, the more they'll come back for more anyway, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine you're the person that introduced them to this brand's SaaS, bookkeeping software
Yeah.
that now their business is fully organized, and so then they look at you as the hero. And so the next time you put your course in front of them, they're like, oh yeah, Justin, he was that guy that told me about this software. Awesome. I'm gonna sign up for his thing now.
Yeah. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. You'll make more money in the end, is the point.
Yeah. Perfect. That's so good. Thank you, Justin. I could ask, I've got a whole bunch of questions I wanted to ask you, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. Maybe I'll have to drag you on again one day. Give me your creator of the week. You mentioned earlier on people that you aspire to yourself. You're obviously an epic content creator, created so much yourself, help out other creators. Who do you see as doing a great job these days?
One of my best friends is a guy by the name of Jay Klaus. He has a business called Creator Science. And he has an incredible podcast called Creator Science. He has a YouTube channel, but also a private community that's really vibrant called The Lab. I've been in it since the beginning. The thing I admire the most about Jay is that he's always trying stuff. He's always testing things. In fact, just this week, he launched a new product called Creator HQ, which is a really, really detailed Notion template to help you run your creator business, from content planning to sponsorships to collaborating with your team. It's he spent so much time developing it, and he basically did it in public. He shared so much about the process and the launch strategy in like the day after the launch, or like in real time during the launch window. He did this giant post about how things were going and how many sales he was getting and like what he was trying and what wasn't working. And like, it kind of goes back to this thing I was talking about at the beginning, is like that is the types of things that I think people learn from the most. He's very vulnerable about like what didn't work and what disappointed him and like what he'd do differently next time. And I really admire him a lot, because he's been someone who's been working at this for years and years. He talks about this a lot, which is like, he's been doing this business for like 7 years, and he really didn't see significant traction until the last basically 2 years. And so it felt kind of like, is this thing working? You're just like grinding and grinding and grinding. Is like, is there going to be a hockey stick? Is there going to be an inflection point? And I think that that's one of the most challenging things for creators to be faced with is, am I insane? Should I keep doing this thing? And so I think, creators like him pulling back the curtain on like what's really normal. Sometimes it takes a really long time to succeed or to make money. And even then you may not feel like you're succeeding, So big fan of Jay and everything he's doing.
Great stuff. Yeah, I've come across Jay before. Always puts out good things. I think that's always a really interesting topic, that quitting versus plowing through, isn't it? It's so good to see stories like that from somebody like Jay, who has made it work even after a while. And to hear that obviously motivates people. But sometimes it is actually a good idea to quit. Sometimes it's an opportunity cost compared to someone else you could do.
Totally.
But it's such a hard decision to make. It's great to see that vulnerability to actually play that out and see how it goes for somebody. It's something that's come out a lot on this show, actually. Whenever people are bringing up creators of the week, they're so often a big part of what makes them great is that vulnerability, that honesty. And it's hard to do. It's hard.
One anecdote I'll share is that, my wife started her first YouTube channel in 2009. And for the quick story is that she got rejected from the YouTube partner program 3 times before she got in. For the first basically several years, 4 years, she was making nothing. Like, a few dollars here and there, but basically nothing. Even when brands did first start to reach out, it was free products. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to pay you. And so for the first many years, we really weren't making that much money. And so once we did start making money, something like 95% of like our income as social media creators was from AdSense. It was it. It was like ads. We were making money on AdSense. That and maybe about 5% brand deals, right? So back in the beginning, and it's basically completely flip flop. Like our revenue streams from our social media stuff is now 95% brand deals, roughly, and 5% AdSense. There's some other stuff in there, but like it's completely flip flop. And so there's another learning thing there, which is that like you got to be comfortable with realizing that your income streams may wildly change over the course of you being creators. You have to something that may have worked in the past, all of a sudden may dry up. They used to have the Reels bonus program or something, or they had some creator fund on a social platform or something about the way in which you were accustomed to making revenue may wildly change. And so the biggest skill that I can encourage people to strengthen is just resilience, realizing that things are going to change. It's not a matter of if, it's when, and knowing that if you want to work for yourself, if you want to be a creator, full-time creator, getting comfortable with that fact is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely second that. We've gone through so many changes. I think I started the blog in 2010. And a lot of our early income was affiliate income. So many affiliate programs have just simply shut down over the years. You spend all that time building up to, thousands sometimes in revenue from these, and then suddenly they change the game or they shut down entirely. Or, a lot of the things were, the whole saying around not building on rented land. But with a lot of income streams, that's exactly what you have to do, isn't it? And
right.
People build a good living there. But yeah, absolutely. Resilience when that changes. So yeah, thank you. Do you know,
Yeah.
I'm going to do one more bonus question, Justin, before we tie it
Yeah.
up here, because you have one of the, for people not watching, Justin has one of the best live streaming camera setups I see. And I think this is what stood out to me when you first sent me through a message a while back, Justin, was the quality. Yeah, that's it. Tell me about your camera setup and your lighting. Like, what are you working in front of here?
Yeah. So I've got a Sony A7 III DSLR camera that I'm looking at right now. I have a Glide Gear teleprompter that I'm also looking at. So I'm
Yeah,
staring straight into the camera lens rather than like slightly below, right?
indeed.
I've
Yeah.
got an iPad, on the teleprompter that I'm kind of using to look at you. I've got just some two kind of face lights right here. I've got a top light here. I've got a light behind me. I don't know if you could see it here.
Oh,
If you're
yeah,
watching on
perfect.
video, I've
Well,
got a
yeah,
backlight, and then I've got two lights lighting the background. If you go back and watch some of my early YouTube videos, it was awful, dude. I had like disco lights. I looked like a gamer. I was getting
yeah,
my teenage angst out, I think. But I finally hired Kevin Shen, actually from Dream Studio Course, to do like a session, and he just kind of gave me a
brilliant.
bunch of pointers, and it was transformative, man. I'm so glad I did that because yeah, that changed the game.
That's it, isn't it? It takes one sort of painful setup period, and then it's just there and working. And
Yeah.
especially if you can do it the way you're doing it. And actually, I've spent a lot of time in the last little while setting this up too, whereby it's the view, the setup you use for any old calls. So this is the same setup I use for Zoom calls, right through to recording YouTube videos. And I presume is that
Hmm.
similar with yourself?
Yeah, 100%. And dude, it's so funny because whenever we get on calls with like brands or something, they're always like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Like that. And I mean, honestly, it kind of communicates something about you. You're
It
professional,
absolutely does. Yeah,
right?
totally. It makes a difference. It's like a polish thing. It's a professionalism thing. It's exactly the same. I get the same comment every time, and I'm like, "That was one job I did. I spent a day doing it, and suddenly it gets all this payoff from now on." So yeah,
Totally.
absolutely. That's great. All right, thank you, Justin. You've been a great guest. Tell me if tell me where you would send people if they want to find out more about your community. It's a prime place you would like people to find you.
I would say the best thing is my free newsletter,
Ah,
creatorwizard.com
okay,
slash
starting
join.
point.
I've got about 32,000 creators on there. I send out, multiple times a week. I send you paid sponsorship opportunities for free, Colin. So there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't want to join. Yeah, it's just creatorwizard.com slash join.
creatorwizard.com/join. Perfect. Thank you, Justin. It's been great to talk to you. And thank you out there for listening. I hope you got loads out of this for your own creator business. I've been Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, and I'll talk to you next time.